Okay. And it's on recorded on YouTube. Okay, record on this computer. Oh, Jesus. I was just thinking, as I came here, like how happy I am to see all of you. How much love comes in following Jesus. And you do, like we were just talking about, sometimes we're in this process. Namaste, by the way. God, I love you guys. How could I be so blessed? Right? So blessed. Like to see every being, like even whatever's arising. Do you see this as your gift? You are the gift to me by God. Whatever's appearing, you're the gift. Boy, I didn't want to see that. Oh, and sometimes, it rises up, that little tension. But we're in holy purpose together because we're not stopping till we're, so beautiful joinings today. I see how much love in them. And and we're just looking deeply, with Jesus. And it was a good reminder because Lori was with me, and it's very precious because we need to be reminded, because the experience here is with Jesus is like, I have to look at that to Jesus. It's like, I've been looking, Jesus. I've been looking, who's saying that? And how come I haven't? We're powerful, infinite beings playing dead. And so it's going to feel like that sometimes. Don't judge it. Do you see? You start judging it. And the ego it's like a herd dog. It wants to cull you off by yourself somewhere. Because that's how it gets to keep the kingdom, the fiefdom of nothingness. So at that point, you turn around to your brother quickly in a moment of light. Quickly. Even when you feel like you want to blow up, because the ego is going to come up with all kinds of things. And this is a good reminder. It's going to say it's going to label it all kinds of ways to avoid joining. It's going to label it embarrassment. It's going to label it its function. It's doing its function. It's the function we gave the ego. Ask Jesus. Jesus, did I give the ego all of its function? Whoa. So every time I'm complaining about the ego, I'm complaining what I gave it. That's humbling. And so we can see that we're doing it to ourselves, but like, we don't really want to see that. I mean, I don't know if I can. So we think we want salvation, but really, no. And that has to be seen. That has to be the honesty of God. Look at Dyra laughing because we know it. Like when we look, it's like, oh, let me just touch divinity over there, But as long as divinity stays over there, I am fine. It's like, no, you're infinite light. Let's just check with the light. Infinite light of being. We're going to check in. And if you think that you cannot see the light, then your assignment is going to be to join with a brother and talk to Jesus together until all the desires not to recognize, at least notice the holy instance here, that the light is here and there's not a darn thing you can do about it because it's here already. It's always been here. It's never been anywhere else. So that's why he has me do this every night, so I can be reminded to look, because it's for me to look, talk, it refers back to infinite. because we've spent so much time in the finite, stuffing ourselves in the shoebox, going, "Ah, mm." It's like, I really, and we do, we're innocent. We say our prayers at night. Oh, Jesus, I really, really want to be infinite. I want to be with God. And then he takes you down and you go, oh, not really. But until you see it, see, that's your way out. I do not want infinite. And then you go with Jesus to uncover every I do not want infinite. And we started this little worksheet where Jesus translates. The ego says something, and then Jesus has a translation. And then there's kind of another one that's evolving that Lori's been working on. It's really beautiful, where you just hear all the thoughts and you put them down, and then you get Jesus's translation for everyone. And in every case, you'll see, for every case, you'll see it's wanted. It's wanted more than God. And that's why it persists. It's an experience that's wanted more than infinite. It's to dive into the bubble. So now we learn discernment. Is that the ego's voice, or is it infinite speaking? So as long as we're keeping one desire, all those desires under there, and not releasing them, the number of times you start discovering, at least the experience here, start discovering where I'm saying no to Jesus. But we don't even see it. We don't see where we're saying no to ourselves, because we're so habituated to thinking, even as we're complaining to Jesus about everything, infinite light is here. So we're sitting there going, what are you doing for me, Jesus? You're not helping me. Right in the middle of light. Right in the middle of everything that's given from the Father. We're sitting on God's head. It's a hilarious visual. I'm asking Jesus, did you give me that visual? I make that up. He says, I gave it to you. We're sitting on the lap of God, the Father, the benevolent, infinite Father. It's a good visual, though, because we always have a vision of what God is. And then holding up a protest sign. We're more intimate than intimate with God, because he gives all to his son. Therefore, we share the characteristics of light, infinite, unchanging. And then here comes a little protest sign, doot, 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 and it pops up like this. Jesus, let me show you all the problems that I have. All the unworthiness. Here it is. Just sit with it. Stay as the light, stay as you are, and just kind of notice. And just get curious. Let's just see how long overwhelm lasts. It's just like bake it out. It's like the dogs. You don't go over, the dogs are yelling and they're screaming and you don't go over to the dogs and pat them on the head, because the minute you do that, you just entrain that behavior. So you just let it run its full course and it will extinguish. But we're so used to rewarding ourselves for following the ego, to avoid looking. I'm going to go get an ice cream. I'm going to go off by myself. I'm a gonna. Here's what I'm a gonna. And the only solution, which I mean, really, we don't even see how many ways we want to turn away from that light until Jesus shows everyone. You just go, all right, Jesus, there's another one. I'm sitting here and I can feel that, that wanting of something. Okay, Jesus, just give it to me. I'm just going to look at the wanting of it and just let it rise up. Is it doing anything? Light impacted? No. And see how long it lasts that way. But no, what happens is one thought arises that things are bad. Then it's an entire tree in bush with branches, and it grows up, and you got like a plethora of thoughts that come. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I got to go and the I gotta's happen. That's why he says the tiniest twitch, catch it. And Tony Robbins would say this too. It's not so great. I'm asking Jesus, can I use that term? Yeah, kill the monsters when it's little. Isn't that hilarious? Meaning, kill it, but see the power that you have in your mind. That as it comes, you can catch it because you're the one who's noticing it. See, it's in the play of consciousness, it seems so quick into the dream and that we have no control. But you can ask Jesus, is this a desire to feel that I have no control over my thoughts, and hear them? So am I playing I don't want control over my thoughts game? And then if you're not at peace, that's the game. We just took out that game. Maybe we'll have a little game board, a new form of Monopoly. Here it is. He said, Jesus is saying, it's just like Monopoly. You just keep going in a circle around the floor. He's going and pretending like you don't have the power, that you didn't make the Monopoly game. Like that's what we're pretending. Okay. So it is very humbling. It is very, very humbling. It's going to be, it just gets more humbling every day, but it's happy humbling. It's true humility. True humility is what's most helpful now, Jesus. And the more we practice it, the more you'll see yourself going to Jesus more and more. Boom. That's experience here. Boom, boom, boom. And then it just takes, you can ask him. It's like, Jesus, or is it possible to make any decisions? Are decisions true? And just listen to what the light says. So we're just listening. No decisions. But consciousness it goes like this. And then it seems like this plethora of decisions. And then consciousness goes, and by the way, so decisions don't even exist. And consciousness is going, I have to make the decision out of all the possibilities. I know which one to decide from. So we're so used to, I know which decision, that he's trying to wean us loose from the idea that infinite being doesn't make a decision because it's everything. What would it decide between? So he knows we love decisions. I mean, the play of consciousness it generates the decisions, and then it's generating the whole thing. The idea that they're decisions, so it can have an experience as though decisions are real. You can ask the light. We can all see the light. We're all light. So just check in with the light. Are there any decisions in light? No, there's one. But it's a habit of trying to make decisions. So he's got to wean us off that. Wean us off judgment. Judgment is what seems to generate decisions needing to be made. I can judge this one better than that one. See, ordering thoughts. These thoughts are going to be more precious than those thoughts over here. So we're fighting with Jesus for concepts. We're fighting our brother over concepts too. That my future can be protected if I make this choice. I can avoid a problem that I experienced in the past or this, and I could watch that, Just, we get curious about the play. So let's watch the play. You're walking down the street. And I don't know I'm sure you probably had this experience where you had a bad experience in a store. Okay, let's just say, because the ego makes up the bad experience in the first place. Because again, so it makes an experience of going in a store and let's just say then give you the right amount of change. So, okay, so then the ego holds on to that memory and it starts a whole plan for the future out of it. I'm going to get screwed by them and blah, 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 blah. Now, assignment may come from Jesus. Just wait till that one comes. You're going to go back in that store to buy something. It's to show that whatever happened in that store never happened. And that there's still a grievance a grievance is time. So it's how consciousness locks down on a little memory and goes, okay, this is real. And I'm going to protect myself in future. I'm never going in that store again. But you can watch that play. Just walking down the street and how many associations there are with this place or some being comes and there's association, a whole little story mushroom cloud comes up. So we're questioning, is that true? One, do I have any decisions to make? But he knows. So I don't make any decisions by myself. It's to save us a lot of pain and anxiety in the decision-making quadrant, which is the hell quadrant. Ask Jesus. Jesus, is making decisions hell? So what the ego's fighting for is to keep the perception that decisions are true, that there's something to choose between, which is two, duality. But if we join with source, it's to show us that there are no decisions to make. I mean, it'll look like it in the play of consciousness. Like we were looking at Renee has to go to Tijuana. Okay. So in the play of consciousness, it looks like the decision to be made. But after a while, the experience here is with it that like you don't want to make any decisions. It's like, okay, you just start like, what am I doing, Jesus? Like that. It's so restful. And I'm asking him because he's fine tuning, right? He helps fine tune where is there any remnant of a decision being made? Let's say even Lena and I joining over what the menu is for the next week. We invite him in together, we join together and listen. But it's relief. It sounded like it was going to be horrible to have Jesus. Last thing, I mean, I've talked about the dogs trying to slip out of their leashes, They want to get out so bad. And you just start to see that's exactly what we're trying to do. The ego creates a leash. And then we want to like wiggle out because if we escape God, we're free. We try to wiggle out of the leash instead of just turn around and see that we created the leash because God doesn't have a leash. Look at the light. Does it have a leash in there? It doesn't have a leash. And it's like we start to see, look, there was no peace in decision. There's no peace whatsoever in decision making. So this is for me. It's reminding me that the moment, yes, he's saying the moment an idea arises that there's a decision to make, the I goes into the march. The I, me, is active. He says, yes. This is a special, didn't I? I said that was I didn't know what the topic was when she said, okay, here's the topic. And I knew it was going to be something, but I didn't know what it is. But obviously, it's about decision. So he knows that we're addicted. Consciousness is addicted to generating problems so he can play the decision role. That's what we're really mad about because God won't grant us decisions. because they're impossible. Because if you have everything, what would you be choosing between? So if you are everything, you own everything, you are everything, you generate an entire world, what need do you have for a decision? It's a good question. But as soon as that's why he's trying to help us out of chapter 30, you know. What kind of day do you want to have? Peaceful? But we don't want to admit that it's the decisions that are the death. So, since he knows we love decisions, consciousness, he's going to give us a new way of looking at decisions. Decide to see differently. Decide for God. See, decide for wholeness rather than decide to split and choose between two impossible choices. You can ask them, is choice impossible? See, the light's not in there choosing anything. Does the light have a choice project going on? So he's lifting it off, the idea of choice off of our shoulders. And see, this is really helpful. Thank you, Jesus. So he's talking about how you're going to feel guilty as soon as you're in choice land. How about that? Because it's two land, and two land is guilt land. You can ask him, Jesus, is two land, guilt land, something to choose between? You're going to feel guilty because you've already spun into a world with more than one. So he's offering us, those of us who are habituated on the drug of choice. You can ask them. Are we? Ask them. We can all hear them. Come on. Isn't this the best of all? Because he's showing us how one can be together celebrating choiceless. So that's a reason he calls it choiceless awareness. Choiceless. You're just purely aware. He's weaned us totally from the idea of choice. Unborn. So it's beautiful. Nisargadatta Maharaj. I love Nisargadatta. Beautiful if you read the things. Who were you before your grandparents were born? What? You know, great. Okay, you might see, what was I? There's nothing there. It was nothing. The ego gets paranoid over nothing because it wants to be something, but it is nothing. Okay, so you'll notice that you can read all the advice, you know, you can read things, you can be reading the Course in Miracles and suddenly, wait a minute, there's no one here. You can see that there's nobody here, but you have that recognition. But the speed with which it comes back and you're going to feel like an object, because the desire is below the level of awareness to feel like an object, that there's a world against me. That's choice. It's a choice to have an experience of the world against me. That's why he's drilling us down. Okay, look at your desire. See that your desire for that experience is a choice you're making. You're choosing to have an experience of hell and then calling it heaven. So then he takes us down. So we have to, he's refocusing choice. Choose for God. Choose the light. Choose and ask me. Make no choices by yourself because there are no choices actually to make. But we're duking it out with Jesus to make choices. Ask him, Jesus, do I just like relish duking it out so I can keep choices? And you notice that when you start going deeper, it's like, I feel like I have no control, like I'm losing my choices. You never had choices, but the ego is going to start screaming about losing choices. That's its, you know, I feel like I'm in prison. No, you're seeing for the first time that as soon as you have choice, you are in prison. That's deep. Ask them. As soon as I think I have choice, am I just put myself in prison? So he's going, come to me so he can eventually show you, you're beyond choice. You're choiceless awareness. Choice is unknown to you. Jesus, let's just ask him because we can hear him. Jesus, I love asking Jesus. Everybody knows this. I mean, it's my favorite thing. I mean, because he's here to help. Okay, Jesus. Am I addicted to choice? Are you helping me see that there's no choice? Love doesn't know what choice is. Ask him. Jesus, does love? Not infinite love. So what we're choosing is to limit the experience of love from ourselves. That's what choice is. It's to limit our awareness of love, infinite, our awareness of infinite. If I have a choice, the mind goes like this. It constricts into that little hyper focus. Here comes the shark. Dun. It's always looking for a choice. That's judgment. See, it's two, and I'm going to try to choose, make a judgment between two things. Dun. Here comes the shark. Dun. The dogs agree down there. It's looking for choice. I'm going to find a choice. That's what it's always. Judgment is choice. Because when you have two, then you got to decide, okay, which one? So the only piece is going to Jesus for every idea of choice till it gets washed out. Then there are no choices whatsoever. There's just love, being exactly as it is. We can't be. I said, Jesus, choice is doing. Yes, that's what a doer is, a chooser. Someone choosing. So Jesus, are we fighting to keep a chooser and a doer? And so he's showing me that, like in chapter 30, that's why he's saying, come back to me for all your choices, because all he's going to do, we're fighting him to keep choice. And that's all the lead follow, functioning is for quick wake up. Like it seems like you're following someone, but what you're really looking at is, where do I want to choose between things? It's just a helpful means to see immediately where we want choice, where we want death. It's very quick because the ego likes its independence, and I can control and I can choose, and it wants to go off by itself. And you don't have, in a community, when you're guided in that direction, it's what's most helpful, because you'll see immediately where the desire is for choice, when peace can never be found in choice. And then the first thing the ego is going to get mad about and try to protect, it's always trying to protect choice. No. Oh, she's closing the door. Good move. See, the ego, there's the dogs barking down there. And the ego has a big bark to it. I love that with Muji. You know I love Muji anyway. It touches my heart like so deeply because of his devotion to God. Like, what a symbol in the mind. Pure devotion to God. No beings at Sahaja, pure devotion to God. But we have to see that he calls it, he has a satsang or a little short segment called Bluff of the Mind. It's a bluff. You have to call the ego's bluff. You got to call it. It's such a turn when you start going to Jesus and you go, just give it to me straight. Give it to me direct. I'm going to take it. You'll see the divine power of that experience here that comes in with that, boy. But until that full turn, see, if we're whinging, it's gonna hurt, because we're we're accepting the bark of the ego and the bites and the bee stings. We're going, oh, it's terrible. I'm being stung. I'm being stung. It's like, no, we don't have to be, because we're light. Let's look in the light. We'll do a light chest and see. Light, infinite light. Do I need to be stung by the bees of the mind? But wrong mind. Am I more powerful than all of that? He said, Jesus is saying, just see that you're choosing it. And look at this. 10. How is judgment relinquished? And he starts it out. The way he starts it out is judgment, like other devices by which the world of illusions is maintained, is totally misunderstood by the world. So I'm going to ground zero, like nothing. Drop every idea about everything. Jesus, I've never seen this chapter before. I want to look at it like fresh. So let's just let him tell us from scratch. Nothing, I don't know anything. I never saw the course. I want to put it over to you, Jesus. One thought about it. Go for scratch. Oh my goodness, here we go. It is actually confused with wisdom and substitutes for truth. This is a valuable trap to see. It's the, if I'm a better chooser, I want to be a better chooser. That's what that is. Whenever we want to get better at something, we want to be a better chooser. Oh my gosh, that was such a big play, you know, because I mean, it can be helpful along the way, kind of like the personal development, because a lot of beings that come to, it seems like that come into the spiritual, they come through things like neuro-linguistic programming or counseling, or, you know, it can be or some kind of personal development, because they see the world's not working. And so the play, you just see it's not working and you start searching, right? To look, you want to see it. It's the way that we start looking to see, oh, that's just not working well. Something has to be different in this world. So first we think we can, the I thinks if we manifest better, that's right. We manifest better, we get a better education, we get a job, we learn job skills. However, you know, it's just like that stack. That played here. What can I say? You know, the different careers over careers, you know, from scientists to sales and marketing and business development, consulting, you know, we have this is the poster child for all the plays in consciousness you can possibly Jesus, meanwhile, trying to get through that. Yeah. Totally linear scientist. I could see, I saw that. I could see that was definitely in the play of how try to avoid love. But love was discovered there. You know, how is it that my first major professor had like a big blow up with him, desired experience and consciousness. But actually it went to forgiveness, you know, later on, because I was taking the course and so much love came. But anyway, so I left that major professor. It wasn't my heart, Jesus says. That was just not your heart. And I came, and I love this. My major professor, we still correspond. How many years since graduate school? However many that is, 40 years or something. And what a love. He was such a scientist and spiritual and love, all packaged in one. Dr. Meyer. Oh my God, I love him so much. And we called him Dad, actually. Is that hilarious? Right? That's my major professor. And I was terrified too. I was really scared because I thought, oh my God, I am not good enough to be in his lab, because he was like one of the most brilliant professor in the whole department. You see how this plays, like the not good enough play? I was like a miracle. How come he let me come into his lab? Like, how could I be? And I was like, But that's the play of consciousness. That's how you can see if you look at your storyline, you're going to see in every part of it how love's been there. This loving, warm dad. See? For your major professor. How these symbols are always there of love. As we're learning that love even transcends the form. But to move beyond that, love is not, you can't figure it out with the analytical mind. And I'm just asking Jesus about the analytical is a form of choice. It was just wanting to choose and wanting salvation and information. I see that clearly now. Like if the I has more information, see, I was a better scientist, and then you could figure out the world and how everything works. And yet I can see in that lab now, see, he'll bring a memory back up and then, he just shows you everything, right? So he was teaching me love, really. It's beyond the science. He was moving, here's the high analytical, got to figure it out, got to do data. If it's not in the data, it can't be real. And how intellect was being used as a weapon. It was the weapon of choice. How much death there is in it. It is death. It's pure death because it's fighting choices. See, it's just a way to keep choice alive in the mind. That, if you have better data, see how that works? If we have better data in the world, then we can make a better choice. But in the middle of all this and the scientific thing, we're sitting in that laboratory. We'd all pack in all the graduate students. We were wherever he'd come, that major professor, Dr. Meyer, he'd come sit in the middle of all of us. It was really quite miraculous if you look at it. We'd all sit in there and we'd talk about spirituality and love and science. And somehow the Holy Spirit gets us through it till we're ready to admit that it cannot be done through intellect. It's beyond intellect. It's beyond choice and choosing. Judgment is wanting choice, because to judge, you have to have two things. See? I can be a better chooser. That is the way of the world. I can be a better evaluator, a judger. That was the analytical mind. If I had that data spreadsheet, I could make a better decision. I think I laughed about that, right? Because if I had a decision to make, and we would teach this in corporations, what can I say? But that was just where the mind was. You put all your positives on one side, and all your negatives on the other side. Then you'll be able to make a better choice. It is actually confused with wisdom and substitutes for truth. As the world uses the term, an individual is capable of good and bad judgment. And his education aims at strengthening the former and minimizing the latter. So he's reminding me about my education. Okay. That was a play in consciousness. See, to try to get safety in heaven through better information. See, if I had better information, then I would be safe. That play in consciousness. If I learned something more, if I had a lot of self-improvement, if I knew all kinds of skills, see, if I had skills. Now, it's not to say he's not going to use them, because a lot of them have all come in handy here, more than I can say. So he uses all of it, but you're full. I can't, it's totality. It's a movement and wholeness rather than these little scraps of unhappiness, a little protective. It's not like, it's like open. It's not like this little protected thing going on anymore. I got more information than you. Like I could see that one-up play when I'd be talking to someone and if I knew the answer, how he has that in chapter 20, where he's, the teacher, if you that if someone seems to learn from you, or you're learning from someone else, it's how it has to be seen through, that there's no one to learn from. You just express in totality. You just express love. What comes out of your mouth is just love. You're not convincing anybody of anything. You can't. It's impossible. You just love expressing. There's no one out there. There's just wholeness. And that feeling, it's a horrible feeling. Who's ever felt good about judging every word that you say, and trying to evaluate? I mean, that is horrid. I could see that too when I started out. What's a better way to say something? Now we are students of the course, and so we can just say, Jesus, what's most helpful to say? And then you get the download of the information from totality. How could we do a better job? Like, so think about this. So there's I can spend 3 days on a spreadsheet, try to figure it out, and still have doubts. You come to a conclusion and you still second guess yourself. Don't you love that? When you can just have Jesus, totality, give you the whole download and just go with that. It saves a lot of time. And you can rest in peace now. I understand the play, though. So you get downloads from totality. Why not? We're infinite beings. Why can't we get download from infinite? It's like I told that story about Moonji. How do you know these things? Well, there's no longer as much that purification. So consciousness, you're not living subterranean as much. We're not living in the catacombs. And so, you're just open. You're just completely open to everything. And you chapped into super consciousness, if you want to look at it that way. But the ego would misuse that kind of stuff. So this is really genuine willingness to see what's true, infinite light. Okay, so we're following the lightness. This is not a parlor trick, which the ego would use it for a parlor trick, like intuition and telling the future, a Nostradamus kind of thing. No, it's used in full purpose by the spirit, for the spirit. So as the mind clears, you're tapping into wholeness, all that is. But he's trying to help you even before the mind fully clears, just to start following wholeness, infinite direction, so that we're not living in experience. We're not living in the fragment of world of limited. And the big illusion is there's no choice in choice. Choice doesn't do jack. So everyone in the world is fighting to keep choice when choice doesn't do a darn thing. Ask Jesus. We're fighting to have choices that do nothing. It's all in the play. That's deep. Okay. As the world uses the term, an individual capable of good and bad judgment and is no. No and no. Yes, Jesus, no. He's not capable. Jesus, ask him, am I capable of good judgment? And hear what he says. No. Am I capable of bad judgment? No. Can I make a better choice? Hear him. Jesus, is it possible for me to make a better choice? No. Other than choose for God, other than choose to cease to deny. That's the only choice. That's why David has a little book. It's called Purpose is the Only Choice. Purpose meaning the purpose to see what's true, to see what is true, that light is here and there's no choice whatsoever. No choice whatsoever. There is, however, considerable confusion about what these categories mean. And his education aims at strengthening the former and minimizing the latter. So minimize bad choice, make good judgments. Oh, good choices, bad choices, no choices. Make no decisions, no choices by yourself. You're not capable of it. Ask Jesus. Jesus, I'm capable. And the hilarious thing about it and the beauty of it, the more you follow Jesus' experiences, the more you don't want to make any choices. You want no choices. You'll even feel yourself irritated the moment you have a thought that you have to make a choice. And that's a reminder that you think you have to take a choice, that there's a choice to make. And then you can just forgive it, you see, and just go, okay, Jesus. And you'll find that that's experience here. More and more, I just go, oh, I'm trying to make a choice. I don't have to make any choices. I'm everything. He's reminding me that, like, if there's a tiny twitch, you think there's a choice. That's what he's telling me. Okay, that's humbling, but it's true. You start to see it. That's why obviously he's giving me the choice talk today. Okay. What is good judgment to one is bad judgment to the other. Do you see it's never consistent? Two people can tell the same story, seemingly the same story, and have totally different views of it. Like that was a little exercise that we'd give out that someone gave me to share. I go into the prison and three guys would sit in a group and they'd read and it'd be a little story about Bob who met Anne and they were having a relationship. And John came along and then started having an affair with Anne. And, it was one of these kind of things like a little soap opera, little mini soap opera. And then you'd ask the guy, okay, so ask the guys, look, tell me who's wrong and who's right. Now, don't you know if you do that, every person at the table has a different view of who's right, and then there'll be a big argument over it. And it was really a great demonstration of showing how consciousness takes stories and interpretive function in consciousness when nothing happened. Robin, the trainer, was helping me, teaching me how to go into the prison and everything. She called it foo-foo dusting. So it was teaching how we foo-foo dust and just create all these little scenarios over just a story and a piece of paper. And you could get totally heated about who's right and who's wrong. Further, even the same person classifies the same action as showing good judgment at one time and bad judgment at another time. That's true. Have you ever noticed where you thought something was really horrible that you were doing, or you thought was really, really good, and then suddenly you read some kind of article on the newspaper? Well, it's used coronavirus, There'll be something that will tell you, okay, do this. And then all of a sudden something else comes in and says, do that. And then you judge it. See, I was doing that wrong. Now I'm doing this right. And then we try to convince all our friends what's right and what's wrong. That's a headache. Let's not do that anymore. Let's just say, Jesus, what am I doing? It's just a relief. It's just a relief. It's simple things like, Jesus, do I need to take these dogs to the vet? No. Okay. And then you just go on. Jesus, do I need to have this thought anymore? No. And you just drop it. It took a while though, because I have a thought, and you could see like you just want it, even though Jesus would say, no, you don't need to think about that. But it's just like this. It was like an itch wanting to keep it. It's hilarious. Further, even the same person classifies the same action as good judgment one time, bad judgment another. This is exhausting death. Nor can any consistent criteria for determining what these categories are be really taught. Can't we see this is impossible? I sure didn't see it was impossible. Jesus showed me. It doesn't work. That's so hilarious. That's insane. But until we see we're insane and admit it, we just think this is the way the world has to work. At any time, the student may disagree with what his would-be teacher says about them, and the teacher himself may be well be inconsistent in what he believes. Good judgment in these terms does not mean anything. No more does bad. See, the only judgment that counts is God's higher court. No judgment whatsoever. So he uses a different word. It's called discernment. It's discerning the voice. It's not discerning the voice for God over the voice for judgment, the voice of the ego. Just discerning, telling the difference. We're not judging that we were bad, that we were listening to the voice. We're just going, what voice are we listening to? Is that most helpful? Listen to that voice. Jesus is going to always say no. Come back over here and listen to this voice right now. Right now, this is the voice of the light, infinite. And just come on over here. It is necessary for the teacher of God to realize not that he should not judge, but that he cannot. Let's look at that deeply. Does the light judge? Is it our function to judge? Ask them. You can hear them. Is it hell to judge? Do we still like to judge? Do we relish it, judge? Ask them. Whenever you're not at peace, you're relishing judgment. There's two. You just popped to duality. You went, and now I have two, and I got something better to do than you, Jesus. Oh my God. In giving up judgment, he is merely giving up what he did not have. Let's take a deep breath and take that one in. So we're fighting Jesus for what cannot be. He's not saying you can have judgment part-time. He's not saying a little bit. He's not saying 0.01% of the time. We can't have judgment. That's why we're mad at God. That is the rage. It takes rage to have judgment. To try and keep judgment, we hold on to rage. I want to. And don't tell me not to. Then we duke it out with Jesus. But just see that he's saying, but don't judge that. So here's how the ego does. Okay. So we know that it's rage. Well, as soon as we feel rage, the ego judges that rage. It's bad. It's a problem. No, just go, Jesus, show me the desire for this experience of rage, to deny light, and just be with the I want it. Oh, I want it. Let him take you down to show you the little horns down, the little horns down there. The only thing that hurts in this world is not looking, but the ego is going to make it seem like if we look, you're going to implode or die. The hurting is not joining with Jesus in a moment of light. So if you're hurting, it's a desire to hurt more than to join in light. That's all it is. That's humbling. It's really humbling. It is necessary for the teacher of God to realize that he should not judge, but he can't judge. Judgment's impossible. So let's just ask Jesus. Jesus, is judgment impossible? This is what the ego doesn't want to see. It doesn't want to turn in and go, oh, this is self-judgment. I'm judging myself, so I don't see that I can't judge. Yes, I'm judging myself so that I don't have to look to see that judgment is impossible. Now that's deep. In giving up judgment, he is merely giving up what he did not have. He gives up an illusion, or better, he has an illusion of giving up. This is deep. This is deep. This is really, 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 really good to look at, because in the spiritual journey, it's going to feel sometimes like you just want to give up. Because that's what consciousness does to prevent the looking. I'll never get it. Everyone else gets it but me. He has actually merely become more honest. So it's a perception that we're giving up something. You start having a perception, oh, I'm giving up this, I'm giving up that, I'm giving up. But Jesus is saying he's actually merely become more honest to see. Recognize, I want to be clear on this, Jesus, will you help me? Recognizing that judgment is always impossible for him, he no longer attempts it. Oh, I'm loving this lesson. Such a good reminder. To no longer attempt judgment. That's peace. So we're attempting to do something that's impossible, which is judge. Choice. To choose between, to order thoughts and make some more important than others. And we're it's attempting to do the impossible, make some thoughts. You can ask Jesus, are some thoughts more important? No. But that's how a world of relativity is made, by the idea that certain things, certain thoughts are more important than other thoughts. That's choice. Choice is the play of making thoughts, ordering thoughts, and trying to pick between them when they're all equally non-existent. This is the admission, isn't it? And he's saying, yes, this is the big A, the big atonement admission. This is big A. In giving up judgment, he is merely giving up what he did not have. It is not within our power to judge. Ask Jesus. God did not make light with the power to judge. Look at light. Does light have any power to judge? This is so helpful. Light has no power to judge. It's not a power within the light. The light's not interested in it. See, look in the light looking around in there to judge something. So the only way it can seem to occur is through the dream. But if we keep swimming deeper into the dream and trying to find the solution in judgment, that's what the ego does. So he's saying, come to me for all your decisions, because you'll see that there are no decisions. God gave you whole. There's nothing to choose. You've already been your light. You've got God's toe tag. You don't get to choose not to be light. As hard as we can try, we cannot choose. That's the whole argument. The argument with God is that we're not light, and we've already lost the argument. We've already lost the argument with the light. There's light. That's all there is. And then we just can laugh. And then the joinings get funnier and funnier, because all we're doing is getting honesty of God. We're just getting honest to finally admit we cannot, no matter how much we want, we cannot have judgment. We have to dream judgment. You can ask him, Jesus, is judgment a dream? This is no sacrifice. On the contrary, he pulls himself in a position where judgment through him rather than by him can occur. And this judgment is neither good or bad. It's God's judgment. It's holy judgment. It's just an expression, see, of wholeness, holiness. No other way to put that. Because it's not, it's something comes out of your mouth. But it doesn't, he's showing me how it just, you're just an expression of the last judgment. No judgment whatsoever. And this judgment is neither good or bad. See, it's not good or bad. It doesn't have anything around it anymore, like this better than that. It's just expression of totality, of holiness. It's coming in as wholeness. So the world might look at that and say, okay, but you're saying, I don't know, you look out and you look at something and go, oh, that you might say that phrase. Yes, that's really good. Or this is really, but there's no energetic around it. Like your happiness is not tied. It's just something that comes out of your, but there's no happiness. But the world looks at, that is a beautiful flower. And then another being goes, that's a beautiful flower. And then you're going to fight over whether it's beautiful or not. There's no attachment to that, what arises. That's what he's trying to get us all to, that there's just no attachment. It comes out, but it's divine expression in its whole expression, exactly like it is. It's not trying to get anything, just expresses. Then we're at peace. It's the only judgment there is. It is the only one. God's son is guiltless and sin does not exist. So it's expression in wholeness. It's showing that God doesn't hold us grievance against the creation of the world. We're holding the grievance against ourselves for the miscreation. So we're judging ourselves when God doesn't judge. The light's not judging the fact that this dream is here. It said, Jesus, oh God, the light doesn't know the dream. We don't know it either. We just have an idea that we think we know the dream. That's why cluelessness is so helpful. I'm like, It's just kind of a shift from an opinion to divine expression. That's all. It's no longer a position. I was talking about totality, so I love this Muji story. I'll tell this last one. I've said it before, but it's just really helpful when it comes just out of wholeness. And there are times you just have to trust that. Like in Mani Sahaja, Muji's walking around. There's very little water. Now there is. They have a couple of little mini lake, a little lake that they have kind of. It's a little small lake, but he was like walking along and he goes, water there. You can find water there. It's because it's most helpful. Somehow that was helpful to the whole, because he's in service. He's an expression of service to the whole. And so, of course, it's Portugal, and they're going, there's no way you're finding water there. He was told many times, he said, dig anyway. And they trust him. They were telling me at Sahaja, there were many things like that Muji would say to do, and they'd have to trust and do it. And it just works out miraculously. But so he said, dig there, and they dug down, I don't know how, pretty far down, and they didn't find water. And Muji just goes, oh, you didn't dig deep enough. You're informed, but you don't know anything. He even says it too. And you start to see that you don't want to know. I don't want to know anything about anything. That's what he says all the time, but it will come. It just comes, and then it's service to the whole, and then it comes out, but there's no position in it. Why wouldn't we, as consciousness itself, tap into all of consciousness in service to the whole? That's just the question. Judgment's relinquished when he see it just, we never had it. A man's checking in with Jesus. Is that true? Yes. You admit you never had it. It's an idea. It's a concept. Judgment is a concept. It's the last concept. The falling away of judgment. See, when forgiveness is complete, then there's no judgment. You see that it's impossible. You couldn't judge if you wanted to, actually. So we go with Jesus's interpretive function on everything. Just let him interpret, because we don't have that capability of judging anyway. It's not given to us. So we rely on Jesus's discernment for everything. He says, yeah. Wow, very deep, Jesus. Thank you. This whole talk on choice and not having judgment. What a great reminder. It is not our function. He says you will always feel incomplete as long as that is held. So if you feel incomplete, anything other than perfect peace, obviously we've just chosen to be what we're not, chosen to try and do something that we can't do. I just said, Jesus, so the doer's judgment. He says, yes, that's all it is. See that being doesn't have that. It's not a function. So you can just say, judgment is out of my function. And then that's the last judgment. I like that. Thank you, Jesus. We love you. So glad to have you with us. We send you the biggest hugs and gratitude for coming and celebrating with us the last judgment. Amen.